Suns, as we speak, are finalizing a trade for all-star guard Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal, KD, and D Book, three of the most prolific scorers in the game today on one team.
They're trailing. Finds it.
They have numbers if they hurry.
Done to Beal. Beal quickly gets to the rim. Missed the layup.
Look, the Phoenix Suns with this big three should be the favorite of coming out of the West and winning next year's title.
Let's just be real, although this isn't a cool narrative and the national media really won't want to play it out there, but like, ask the other 29 GMs. 26 of them would trade their whole team for our whole team and our draft picks and everything as is.
How about no?
As I'm sure you guys know, when it comes to any NBA team, the worst place you can be is in that dreaded no man's land where you're not competing for championships contending, but you're also not outright tanking, being one of the worst teams in the NBA. For a lot of years in the NFL, that was the Dallas Cowboys, who were always 8-8. Nowadays in the NBA, that's the Phoenix Suns, Philadelphia 76ers, and ironically enough, the Dallas Mavericks.
Ironic.
Now, for Dallas and Philadelphia, those two teams, I mean, they get pretty good press, a lot of attention for how bad they've been this season. For a team like Phoenix, they kind of go under the radar. They're not Los Angeles, not Texas, not a real big market team, a basketball city. And looking at their big three, Durant, yes, has gotten tons of blame, Booker has gotten some blame, but the one guy who skirted all of it is Bradley Beal, the culprit for the majority of their problems.
I've never been swept a day in my life, so I'll be damned if that happens.
A few moments later.
Couldn't hit McDaniels. Beal, jumper. No good. Ball movement leads to O'Neal. Extra Beal. Drive, dish. Intercepted. Out of the timeout. Beal loses the ball. Turnover, Phoenix.
Yeah, two costly turnovers by Bradley Beal.
10 to shoot. Edwards.
I'll be damned, huh?
If your goal as an NBA star is to make money, cash a paycheck, not win any games, Bradley Beal should be your idol. This guy right now in Phoenix getting paid like a max contract player. But of course, the scrutiny expectations of Bradley Beal aren't anywhere close to that. I mean, think about this. When's the last time on ESPN using a Bradley Beal segment, good or bad? Exactly. Bradley Beal is the West Coast Paul George minus the scrutiny and expectations. And honestly, calling that is kind of an insult to Paul George. Because even though Paul George is bad this year, he wasn't Bradley Beal bad. In this guy's last 11 games healthy, he's averaging 12.8 points per game, 45% shooting, under 30% from 3. In those 11 games, scored 0 versus the Clippers, amazing, 4 versus the Lakers, phenomenal, 1 point versus Boston, that's otherworldly, and versus the Warriors, dropped 7.
Tandem in NBA history.
Father-son, yeah, absolutely.
Day in and day out, Al sets the tone for us. He deserves it.
He on the biggest stage, watching the best athletes in the world.
Good answer. Bradley Beal off the side of the rim, out of bounds.
This guy hasn't just dropped the ball, he's punted it into his own end zone and effectively quit on the Phoenix Suns. And saying someone quit, a pro athlete quit, that's a pretty big accusation. But look at those numbers. They just scream, I quit, I gave up, I have no pride in my team, or even myself. For a lot of NBA players who aren't winning, they'll at least take pride in their own stats and try to get their numbers. Beal at this point doesn't even care about that. If you look at Bradley Beal 3 years ago, this guy in 2021 was a third-team All-NBA player and an All-Star. And for a lot of NBA teams looked at as kind of the final piece of their championship hopes and their championship puzzle. Teams like Golden State, Miami, even Boston for a little bit. People wanted Bradley Beal, he was a hot commodity back in 2021. But looking at his contract after the extension with the Wizards, I mean, it's ballooned to absurd levels. Last year, 2024, got paid $48.1 million. That was the 6th highest contract in the NBA. This year, $50.2, the 5th highest contract. Next year will be the 10th highest, and 2027 with the 8th highest contract in the NBA. And for some added context looking at NBA history, at this point in time, only 5 players ever had made $50 million per year in a single season. The first guy being Steph, then Jokic, Embiid, Durant, then Bradley Beal. For this guy right now in the moment to have a top 5 paying contract while not being a top 50 player, that's phenomenal if you're Bradley Beal's agent. If you're Bradley Beal, also phenomenal, but for Suns fans, it's depressing. Much like Philadelphia, this Suns team, they're hamstrung by bad contracts, bad play, and just bad luck. And once again, comparing Bradley Beal versus Paul George, these two guys at this point in their careers, they're eerily similar. But here's the one thing I'll say about Paul George. This guy in the past was a winning player who had moments. Versus the Heat, that big-time dunk on Birdman, that was a moment. OKC in 2019, that entire year, that was a moment. He was top 3 in MVP. Then, of course, with the Clippers minus Kawhi, took them to the Western Conference Finals. As bad as Paul George is right now, he's had moments in the past, playoff moments, that are noble for his career. For Bradley Beal, can you name one series, one game, even just one shot that's Bradley Beal's moment in the postseason? For any all-time great NBA player, even all-star caliber player, not having a moment, a game, even a series, that's a big indictment on you as a player and your overall career. And of course, looking at Bradley Beal, really post-2017 has been the spokesman for the Empty Stats Club. As of course back in 2020, 2021, had back-to-back years averaging 30. If you look at Beal's stats back then, I mean, they were phenomenal, otherworldly, a top-tier player stats. For the team as a whole, Bradley Beal playing 13 games below 500 and got a grand total of 1 playoff win. Bradley Beal back then was the king of empty stats. And to hammer that point home even further, look at the past 25 years of guards with back-to-back 30-point seasons. Here's the list: SGA, Luka, James Harden, Kobe, Iverson, then Bradley Beal. Now looking at that list, who's the polar bear in Texas? All those guys, even SGA who's still young, even James Harden who's kind of a playoff choker, they had playoff moments of greatness and brilliance. Bradley Beal never had that.
That's true.
When you're an NBA GM and NBA coach looking for talent, and you see a guy averaging 30 points per game, I mean that automatically sticks out. When you see that guy averaging 30 on a bad team, a pitiful team that's not going anywhere, I mean you should be very, very cautious. Bradley Beal, 100% a cautionary tale of an empty stats player. This guy, when no one's watching on a random Tuesday, can score 40 versus the Hornets or 50 versus the Kings. But in a primetime matchup, a must-win game, a critical game, Bradley Beal not once his career is the guy you look to for a big-time performance or a big-time shot. He's simply not that guy and never has been. So that right there is the end of the video, and I'll say one last thing. Bradley Beal in 25-30 years time might be looked as an underrated player, an overlooked player. Because you know his stats were pretty impressive, 30 points here, 30 points there, a couple of seasons averaging 25 points per game. Bradley Beal in 25 years might have a good rep. But this guy in the moment, we know who he is, what he's done. What he's done is nothing, and who he is an empty stats player. And of course, being in Phoenix with a so-called Big 3 championship hopes, he's underperformed every single season. And here's the sad thing. I don't know if Beal himself actually cares. Playing for the Suns, if they're hot, people will watch, tune in, they'll have some buzz. If the Suns stink, people in Phoenix, they don't really care. So Beal right now in a perfect spot of getting paid, not really criticized, and overlooked by national media. Bradley Beal right now for an empty stats player is in basketball heaven. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.